Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial about how to write a book, full-length novel, using ChatGPT. There's a lot of misinformation out there on YouTube right now, and I just kind of want to change things up as someone who has been writing with AI pretty much since I could, which admittedly isn't that long ago, but I've also been writing a lot of novels. I've written 12 fantasy novels, and I also am the content manager for Kindlepreneur, which is all. So I'm writing all the time, every day, and AI has been a really great tool for that. But it is often misused. It is often misunderstood, and a lot of people don't really know what to do with it to actually create genuinely good results. A lot of people are afraid that AI is just going to come and take their jobs away, that with a click of a button you'll be able to write a book, and that's simply not true at the moment. Right now, ChatGPT in particular, but a lot of AI tools, they are production tools, production assistants to help with your productivity. And that's what I'm going to show you about how to do that. I'm going to take you through the entire process from scratch. I have no story ideas that I'm going to try and create here. We're just going to start from scratch and go through the entire process, and then hopefully that will be useful for you and you can take that and apply it. Understand that this is not to create a crap book, okay? We want to actually create a genuinely good book here. And that's going to require a lot of human editing. Like I said, I don't think we're, at least in our lifetime, ever going to be able to push a button and have a genuinely good, coherent novel with the touch of that button. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think it will happen eventually, but probably not within my lifetime at the very least. And so let's go ahead and start this process. We're going to start here in ChatGPT, and we're going to be using the default GPT 3.5 for this first step. As of this recording, OpenAI has released GPT-4, and we are going to use that, but GPT-4 is currently limited, so we can only use it so much. And so for this first portion, I don't think we really need it. We can just stick with the 3.5. The first prompt that I like to do goes something like this. You say, give me, we'll say 20 high concept pitches. If you don't know what a high concept pitch is, this is something you can look up. It's basically a very quick, very to the point understanding of what a story is. So if I say the words Harry Potter but goth, you get a nice sense of what that is. And by the way, that is the show Wednesday on Netflix. Harry Potter but goth. So high concept pitches. It doesn't quite get as good as the Harry Potter but goth example, but I find it does make them a little bit better. For a best-selling, and then we'll put the genre here. Let's just say epic fantasy, because that's kind of what I like to write. Story with a unique twist and intriguing characters. I like to add those last two bits because it sometimes results in much better prompts that are a little bit less generic, especially by adding the bit about unique twists. So I'm going to add that in there. You can add anything else that you might want here. You could add with engaging world building, or whatever it is that you want, especially if you have a kernel of an idea already of what you want to write. Go ahead and add that in there, and then just hit return and see what it gives you. Alright, so in a world where magic is illegal, a young rogue thief discovers her ability to wield forbidden spells and must choose between using her powers for personal gain or joining a rebellion to overthrow the corrupt government. Okay, that's pretty good, but it's a little generic. Let's look at number 2 here. When a peaceful kingdom is invaded by a powerful army of dragons, a young prince must learn to communicate with the creatures and uncover a hidden power that could save his people. Okay, that's not too bad. After a catastrophic event splits the world in two, a warrior must journey through a treacherous wasteland to reunite the two halves and restore balance to the universe. That's kind of interesting. I don't really know how the world would be split in two, but I like where that's going. So I'm going to go ahead and take this and just copy it into my scrap sheet here just for future reference. In a land where gods walk among mortals, a group of unlikely heroes must band together to prevent a war between the deities and uncover a conspiracy that threatens to destroy the world. Okay, pretty generic. When a young orphan discovers that she is the long-lost heir to a powerful empire, she must navigate the dangerous world of politics and intrigue to claim her rightful place as ruler. Also pretty generic, but a fairly common trope in a lot of fantasy. In a world where magic is fueled by emotions, a group of emotionally repressed individuals must learn to confront their inner demons in order to unleash their full potential. Okay. When a powerful curse threatens to destroy a once great kingdom, a band of misfits must journey to the ends of the earth and find a way to break the spell and save their home. In a world where dragons are hunted for their magical properties, a young dragon trainer must choose between loyalty to his kingdom and his bond with his beloved dragon companion. That sounds familiar. After a catastrophic event plunges the world into darkness, a young priestess must lead her people on a perilous journey to find the source of darkness and restore the light. That's not too bad. In a world where magic is a finite resource, a group of magical scholars must discover the secret to creating new magic before the world is plunged into darkness. I kind of like that. That's interesting. Creating new magic. I wonder what that would look like. When a young prince is cursed with immortality, he must learn to navigate the centuries and find a way to break the curse before he becomes the last person alive in the world. I actually have a story that's similar to that. That's very interesting. But I'll leave that one for now. In a world where people are born with magical abilities based on their zodiac sign, a young woman with a rare and dangerous power must learn to control her abilities before they destroy her and everyone she loves. That could be interesting, but I don't want to do all the research I would have to do into zodiac signs at this moment. After a devastating war tears the world apart, a group of survivors must band together to rebuild their shattered society. It's generic. In a world where the gods are dying, a group of mortals must embark on a dangerous journey to find the source of the gods' power and save them before it's too late. When a powerful artifact falls into the wrong hands, a group of adventurers must journey to the ends of the earth to retrieve it and prevent it from being used to evil. That sounds like the plot of the new Dungeons and Dragons movie. In a world where time travel is possible, a group of time travelers must band together to prevent a time paradox from destroying the universe after a powerful sorcerer. Da, 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 da. Alright. Some of these are good, but actually, I'm a little disappointed with these overall. I've done this in the past and gotten much better results. So we're going to go ahead and flesh this out a little further. I'm going to say do 10 more, but have more unique twists. And let's see. Yeah, I'll say end character conflict, because that's really what makes a good story there. So okay, I'm liking this a little better. There's a little bit more personal conflict here. In a world where every person is born with a twin, one of whom possesses magical abilities and the other does not, a pair of twins must reconcile their differences and work together to stop a war between the magical and non-magical populations. That's kind of cool. I'm going to highlight that one. When a powerful sorceress is betrayed by her own apprentice and left for dead, she must ally with a group of unlikely heroes. In the world where the dead can communicate with the living, a grieving widow must confront her own guilt and regrets with her deceased husband. Returns to her for one last conversation. It's more like a short story. When a powerful mage is stripped of his magical abilities, he must learn to rely on his wits. That's pretty generic. And, we might be able to get better results with GPT-4, but I found that usually if you just keep working with this, you can find some good ideas, or at least little pieces of a good idea that you can stitch together with other ideas. See, none of these are very unique twists. Alright, I'm just going to try this one more time. And if I don't find anything I like better, then we'll go with one of the three options I've put down so far. So give me 10 more. That have more emotional stakes. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Okay, this one's interesting. In a world where the dead are brought back to life as slaves, a young necromancer must choose between saving her undead lover and fighting for the rights of all the enslaved dead. Oh, I love that. I love that. I think that might be the winner. Okay. It's a little odd, but it's interesting. Okay, group of strangers. Uh, okay, I think that's good enough. So now we have these pitches, and I've selected 4 of them. We're only going to go with one today. And so let's just review these. After a catastrophic event splits the world in two, a warrior must journey through a treacherous wasteland to reunite the two halves and restore balance to the. I think this is a cool idea. There's a lot that I would have to be worked out about it, so I don't really know like how this would work. So I'm not going to go into it right now. In a world where magic is a finite resource, a group of magical scholars must discover the secret to creating new magic before the world is plunged into darkness. Okay, that's pretty good. In a world where every person is born a twin, one of whom possesses magical abilities, the other does not, a pair of twins must reconcile their differences and work together to stop a war between the magical and non-magical populations. That one's okay. But I do really like this last one. In a world where the dead are brought back to life as slaves, a young necromancer must choose between saving her undead lover and fighting for the rights of all the enslaved dead. I just think that's perfect. So we got some zombie romances here. So now the next step is to move into the synopsis phase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this pitch and I'm going to copy it. And we'll go back to ChatGPT, and now we can stay. Actually, yeah, let's open a new one and go to GPT-4. You can probably do this step in GPT 3.5, but GPT-4 is just going to be better for us. And so the prompt that we're going to use here usually goes something like this: using the following concept, write a story synopsis for an epic fantasy book. You can replace that with whatever genre you're doing. And then here I just paste that concept that we got and let it run. All right, it gave us a title, The Undying Oath. That's actually pretty good. Sometimes it gives us really bad ones, but I'm okay with that title for a while. In the mythic realm of Ethernos, the living coexist with the reanimated dead, known as the Enslaved. Once resurrected by powerful necromancers, these undead beings are forced to a life of servitude, their free will suppressed by the necromantic energy that binds them. It is in this cruel world that the young and talented necromancer Lyra Valtiri, might have to work with that name, discovers her unique abilities as well as her empathetic heart. Lyra, an apprentice to the renowned necromancer Master Thane, learns the art of resurrection and control over the enslaved. During her training, she meets Elric, an undead warrior enslaved by her master. Their connection is immediate and profound, transcending the shackles that bind Elric to his cursed existence. As their love flourishes, Lyra becomes torn between her loyalty to her mentor and her love for Elric. Her internal struggle intensifies when she witnesses the brutal treatment the enslaved endures at the hands of the living. Unable to ignore the injustice, she takes a bold stand advocating for the rights of the enslaved and challenging the established order. Her defiance draws the attention of a secret underground movement known as the Shadowborn. See, I love how it makes up some of these things, and some of these will change, but it's doing pretty well so far. Who have been working toward the liberation of the enslaved. The Shadowborn offer Lyra as an opportunity to use her skills in necromancy to break the magical chains that bind the undead, effectively freeing them from the control of the living. As Lyra embarks on this dangerous path, she faces the ultimate choice: save her love, Elric, and risk the wrath of the powerful necromancer elite, or fight for the rights of all enslaved, potentially sacrificing her chance at happiness with Elric. With the fate of the enslaved in her hands, Lyra's decision will shape the course of the history in Eternos and determine the future for both the living and the undead. As the forces of darkness close in and ancient secrets reveal themselves, Lyra must embrace her destiny and unlock the true power within her. In a world where love defies death and hope sparks rebellion, Lyra's choices will forever alter the balance between life and death and ignite the battle for the very soul of Eternos. Wonderful. This is actually a really good start. I'm going to go ahead and paste this into our document. And just clean that up a little bit there. All right. So this is the point where we have to step in and add a little bit of our own human input to this. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of this because it takes time, right? And I'm actually surprised at how well this is done, and I almost want to write this book now. But we'll go ahead and I'll try and give you some examples of what I mean. So this is pretty good here. What I don't see throughout here is that it makes a couple of references to Lyra's unique abilities. And so we're going to want to define what that is. And if you're stumped for ideas, you can just ask, what are Lyra's unique abilities? Alright, she possesses several unique abilities. Soul Whisper. Lyra has the innate ability to communicate with the souls of the deceased, even before their reanimation. Okay. This deep connection allows her to understand their emotions and desires while making her empathetic toward the enslaved. Okay, I do agree that whatever her unique abilities are, they should be something that connects her more to the undead here, so that's a good place to start. True Resurrection. Yeah, that's a little bit too much of a power. Maybe that's something she could work towards, but Soul Mending. Lyra can hear the spiritual wounds of the enslaved, easing their pain and helping them find solace in their undead existence. This ability not only comforts the enslaved, but also strengthens their loyalty towards her. I like that one a little bit. So helping them find peace as undead is interesting. Unbinding. Lyra has the potential to break the necromantic chains that bind the enslaved to their masters, freeing them from a life of servitude. No, that doesn't really work with the concept we have here. So I'm going to go with this soul mending idea. So we're going to add that here. Her unique ability to perform soul mending, a magical ability long thought lost that allows her to, let's see, how did they put it? Ease the pain and provide comfort to the undead. And then we can get rid of that. Lyra, an apprentice to the renowned necromancer Master Thane, learns the art of resurrection and control over the enslaved. So this is just like the standard magical ability to reanimate the undead. So that's not really a special power, so we can leave that in. During her training, she meets Elric, an undead warrior enslaved by her master. Using her newfound soul mending ability, she is able to remove Elric's pain and bring true, let's say, not sentience exactly, but true awareness of his existence. Let's say just, actually we can put this in here, most undead can do the tasks that necromancers set out for them, but do not have free will. Lyra is able to restore free will to Elric. Alright. So that just makes that a little bit more interesting there. And we're getting a little bit more specific, which is what we want to do. Their connection is immediate and profound, transcending the shackles that bind Elric to his cursed existence. That's alright. As their love flourishes, Lyra becomes torn between her loyalty to her mentor and a love for Elric. Alright, we can leave that there for now, but we might have to get more specific later. Her internal struggles intensifies when she witnesses the brutal treatment the enslaved endure at the hands of the living. Unable to ignore the injustice, she takes a bold stand, advocating for the right of the enslaved and challenging the established order. That's fine. Her defiance draws the attention of a secret underground movement known as the Shadowborn. That's kind of like a generic fantasy name, but I'm just going to leave it for now. But if you wanted to change this name, you could, or you could also brainstorm new names and include them in here. Who have been working towards the liberation of the enslaved. The Shadowborn offer Lyra an opportunity to use her skills in necromancy. I'm going to add as well as her soul mending ability to break the magical chains that bind the undead, effectively freeing them from the control of the living. As Lyra embarks on a dangerous path, she faces the ultimate choice: save her love Elric and risk the wrath of the powerful necromancer elite, or fight for the rights of all the enslaved, potentially sacrificing her chance at happiness with Elric. Alright, so I like this conflict. We haven't said anything about Elric throughout all of this, what's going on here with the Shadowborn and everything. So let's figure out what's going on with Elric, and this is where you just need to start adding your own input. So I'm going to say Elric supports Lyra and offers himself as her protector. However, due to her advocacy for the rights of the undead, she gains the attention of some very dangerous necromancer elite, to use the phrase that they use there. At a pivotal part of the story, Elric is captured and Lyra is forced to choose his freedom in between and this is kind of getting into the next paragraph. I'm going to say it again here anyway. Saving Elric or saving all of the enslaved. Alright, so that just adds just a little bit extra so we don't forget about Elric. Gives us a little bit extra to the plot. As Lyra embarks on the dangerous path, she faces the ultimate choice: save her love. Alright, yeah, we kind of went over that. With the fate of the enslaved in her hands, Lyra's decision will shape the course of history in Ethernos and determine the future of both the living and the undead. As the forces of darkness close in and ancient secrets reveal themselves, Lyra must embrace her destiny and unlock the hope within her. Now, GPT does this a little bit, where at the very end, when you're creating these summaries or these synopsis, the very end of the synopsis will often be kind of a teaser for what's to come, right? And we actually don't want that, okay? Because this is not a book description to sell someone on the book. This is a book synopsis of the entire plot. So we want to flesh out the story. So I'm going to take a quick stab at this in ChatGPT, but if I can't get it to give me more details, then I'm just going to leave it blank for now, but understand that this is something you would want to figure out at this stage of the story before moving on to the next step. So I copied this last bit here. You mentioned the following, and then I'm going to put this in quotes. Can you give more specific details about what Lyra does and how the story ends? And it's important to put that little bit about how the story ends. Otherwise, it's going to continue to have that sort of like cliffhanger suspense ending there. So let's see what this gives us. And this is the thing with ChatGPT is it is a conversation. You have to kind of work back and forth with it. Even if you get really good at your prompts, you're never really going to be able to get exactly what you need with one prompt. This is pretty good. So she learns of an ancient prophecy. That's a little overdone, so that's something we might change. Bringing balance to life and death in Eternos, realizing she is the one foretold in the prophecy. Yeah, we don't need this to be a chosen one story. Together with Elric and a diverse group of allies, including other necromancers. So it forgot that Elric is... Well, it didn't forget. It doesn't know that Elric is in prison. So he can't do this with her. But this is getting interesting. So she ventures into the treacherous depths of the necropolis, a hidden city of the dead, to retrieve the legendary Soul Stone. This powerful artifact holds the keys to unlocking her full potential and liberated the enslaved. As Lyra and her companions face numerous trials, battles, and betrayals, she discovers the true origins of necromancy and the dark history behind the enslavement of the undead. So a lot of this I'm finding is maybe unnecessary. I'm just giving us some new characters here. All right. I like these two paragraphs. I'm going to copy those and replace this last paragraph here. So, and I'm also going to get rid of this thing with Elric because, as we established here, Elric is not around. So, together with a diverse group of allies, including other necromancers, warriors, and even members of the enslaved, Lyra ventures into the treacherous depths of the necropolis, a hidden city of the dead, to retrieve the legendary Soul Stone. This powerful artifact holds the key to unlocking her full potential and liberating the enslaved. As they face numerous trials, she discovers the origins of necromancy and the dark history behind the enslavement of the undead. I think that's actually okay. I don't know what that dark history would be. That's something we'd maybe figure out as we go. But that sounds interesting. Then we get this section where introducing this new character, Calum. And if we wanted to do this properly, we would find a way to take this character and introduce him further up. In fact, let's do that. So let's call this guy her master. Her master, tyrannical arch-necromancer, Calum. And I'm going to go up here and replace that. So it's no longer Master Thane. Let me just quickly do a search to make sure I got every instance of Thane. Yep. In a climactic battle, Lyra confronts Calum and his undead army using her unique abilities to break the chains of servitude. Yep, that holds up with the unique abilities we've established. Free the enslaved and weaken Calum's founder. Okay, that sounds like a complete story to me, roughly. There's still a lot of things to be fleshed out, but that's a pretty good start. So, this is actually a pretty big synopsis. I didn't really anticipate it would get this big. But now it comes time for the next step, which is one of my favorites, which is the outlining stage. So my prompt for the outlining stage typically goes something like this. Using the following synopsis, create a detailed outline using and then you can insert your outline, your favorite outline of choice. There are a whole bunch of them, and ChatGPT knows a lot of them. And for this, I'm going to use just the hero's journey because everyone knows that, and it should be pretty good for a fantasy story. And so then I add a colon, and add that entire thing here. Now, this is the point where you definitely want to be using GPT-4 because it can read and understand more text than GPT 3.5. And so if you start with that and let it go, now we get to see what it does. So it's already giving us the outline in the form of the hero's journey, starting with number 1, the ordinary world. Oh, okay, so it's doing this as the kind of outlines you learn in school that nobody actually uses. But I actually like this. No, it's not doing this right. So I'm going to stop this. And we're going to change that prompt a little bit. So I'm going to copy this again. And actually, sometimes it helps to start an entirely new chat session. So it can start fresh. So we're going to say, using the following synopsis, create a detailed well, let's just try this again exactly as it is and see if it does that thing again. And if it does, we'll try something else. It's doing it again. Okay. Let's try this again. This is how it goes sometimes. All right, using the following synopsis, create a detailed, I'm just going to say summary, broken into parts based on the hero's journey. And we'll see if that gets any better. Alright, part 1. In the mythical realm of Eternos, Lyra Valkyrie, a young necromancer, discovers her unique ability to perform soul mending, easing the pain and providing comfort to the undead. Lyra meets Elric, an undead warrior enslaved by her master, Master Calum, and uses her soul mending ability to restore his free will. Alright, that's good. Witnessing the brutal treatment of the enslaved, Lyra becomes torn between her loyalty to her mentor and her love for Eric. So this is a great call to adventure, I think, as it says here. Part 2, Initiation. Crossing the threshold, belly of the whale, road to the trial. Lyra takes a stand for the rights of the enslaved. That's definitely a good crossing the threshold moment, drawing the attention of the underground movement, the Shadowborn, who offer her the opportunity to use her abilities to free the undead. As Lyra joins the Shadowborn, yada yada yada. So yeah, that's a good crossing of the threshold. And the belly of the whale here would be this bit of Elric is captured. So it's basically taking what we did and structuring it a little better so that it fits into a good story here. Alright, we'll just let that finish up. I think it's doing a pretty good job. Now what I'm noticing is that it hasn't added too much to this. It's basically just structuring the synopsis we had already. It's not really adding anything to the story. So we're going to copy this and stick that into the outline stage here. And I could clean this up and make it look better, but I'm not going to because there's a lot more to do. And I'm going to also take it and insert it in here again. In fact, let's create a new chat. Stick this in here. And we're going to do what I call the chapter outline, because this is just an outline of the story as a broad whole. I really want to start getting deeper into like what are each individual chapter going to look like. And so the way I start with that is usually goes something like this. Using the following outline, write a detailed outline of this story. Let's see. Summary of 25 chapters. I'm just going to say 25. Actually, let's do 24 because there are 12 steps to the hero's journey, and so hopefully we can get roughly 2 per step. And I could leave it at that, but I could also add something like flesh out each step in the hero's journey to include more detail, information about the characters, etc. It's a little dangerous adding etc. in ChatGPT sometimes because it gives it a little too open-ended, but I'm just going to give it a try. All right, and we'll do that. Okay, so far it is not changing anything significantly. Yeah, okay, so it's basically just fleshing out the hero's journey a little bit better. This isn't bad what it's giving me. I think it's actually a better version of the outline we had before, but it's not quite the outline we were hoping for. So I'm just going to let this run for a bit and see if there's a better way to do it. And in fact, I'll probably break things down a little bit and start getting into more individual chapter summaries. And the reason I'm going to do that is mostly for time, because we're getting to the point now where I can't, in the scope of this video, show you the entire process for the entire outline and the entire novel. So we're just going to start focusing in on the first part of the novel and then move on from there. This is pretty good stuff, though, as I'm reading through it. Yeah, I actually like this better than what we had before with the 12 steps of the hero's journey. So hopefully we'll let this finish up. And I'll copy and paste this into our document. All right, and it stopped at 11. Okay, so not perfect for sure. But let's just go back here and paste this here where that was, because I think this is a little better. We're going to take just this section and start working with it. All right. And I'm going to say using the following section, create a detailed an outline for 6 chapters of this epic fantasy novel. Okay, now this is starting to get to where I like to see it. So we're getting the chapter. It's even giving us names, which you can use or discard at your leisure. And it tells us a little bit about what happens in that chapter. Okay, this is perfect. And it's going to give us 3 or 6 chapters. All right, so Introduction to the Realm of Aethernos. Lyra Valkyria, young necromancer, trains with Master Calum. Lyra accidentally discovers her unique abilities to perform soul mending. We might have to get more specific there. Yeah, this is good. Okay, this is good. So I'm going to copy this. This is more what I was looking for with the chapter outline. So I'm going to take that and copy it into our document. So now we have this chapter outline. And obviously, as you go along, you would fix up the full hero's journey outline and create a comprehensive chapter outline here. Now we might find that some of these chapters are not really, what I would consider a whole chapter. Maybe they could be just one scene in a larger chapter, or maybe you find that one chapter really should be 2 or 3 chapters. And that's something you will figure out as you go along. So you want to kind of look through this. Let's just go ahead and start. So this is the Introduction to the Realm of Aethernos. Lyra Valkyria, young necromancer, trains with Master Calum. Where he teaches, you're going to have to start adding more detail here, where he teaches her how to raise the undead for the first time. She raises a undead warrior who we will later find out is Elric. But who runs off screaming after being awoken. Alright, I like that. Lyra accidentally discovers her unique ability to perform soul mending. Let's figure out how she does this. By, let's just say, let's see, when she is attacked by an undead servant. Let's see. Another undead servant that she awakens. She, in her fear, she unknowingly activates her soul mending ability, instantly calming the undead servant. And you could add more details here, like we could say Master Calum is impressed that she has seemingly awakened a calm undead, since most apprentices don't do it well and create monsters that can't be controlled without the aid of the master necromancer. Something like that. And so after this first one here, I might want to add a little bit of information about, like, what is this actual training that Master Calum is giving Lyra? What does that actually look like? Master Calum shows Lyra how to awaken the undead. The dead body is placed on a ritual table and embalmed. This could get weird. With special magical ointments. The dead body has to be only recently dead in order to be reanimated. I'm going to add that there because we've got a love story coming up with between Elric and Lyra, and it would be weird if Elric was like a zombie. So we're going to make him as recently dead so he looks and acts relatively normal. Alright, that's good. We have this bit about introduction to the realm of Aethernos. I'm just going to leave that there, but we could add more there if we wanted to. And if you're ever, stumped for ideas and not sure where to take this or how to flesh it out, you can always ask ChatGPT. It can give you more. But this is a good first chapter, I feel like, just for starters, right? So we're going to go ahead and take this and move to the next step, which is what I call just the detailed outline. Okay. Now I'm going to open a new chat for this. Go to GPT-4 and say something to the effect of, take the following chapter description and flesh it out with more details and individual beats for the scene. And I'm going to paste that in that we just got and let it go. Alright, so now we're in a Necromancy Academy. That holds up. And I like that this is giving it to us in bulleted form, because that's just kind of an easier way to process, but it hasn't always done that in my experience. Alright, so this is giving us like that she's meeting Master Caleb for the first time. I'm going to say no on that. We're going to have her be apprenticed to Master Caleb already. But you'll notice it's giving us a lot more detail, like they're going to the Academy's underground chamber where a recently deceased body is placed on a ritual table. Master Caleb instructs Lyra on how to properly prepare the body using special magical ointments and incantations that are essential to the reanimation process. As Lyra carefully follows Master Caleb's instructions, she manages to raise an undead warrior from the body on the table. The undead warrior, who is later revealed to be Elric, awakens and is initially terrified by his new undead form. He screams and flees from the chamber, leaving Lyra and Master Caleb behind. Master Caleb, impressed by Lyra's first attempt, instructs her to raise another undead servant. The second undead servant awakens and, in confusion and fear, lunges at Lyra. As a self-defense mechanism, Lyra unknowingly activates her unique ability to perform soul mending, instantly calming the undead servant and preventing it from attacking her. So this is pretty good. One thing it's doing here that's a little weird is it's dividing these up by scenes that aren't really scenes. It's just like the next part of the chapter. So we can remove that, but we'll go ahead and copy this and go to our document and paste this in here as part of the detailed outline. There we go. And fix it up a little bit. So she arrives at the prestigious... Okay, so this is making it sound like she's brand new to this academy, and I don't really want that. So we'll say a young and talented necromancer. Let's see. I don't want her to wake up because that's kind of overdone in a lot of things. Finishes her breakfast as quickly as she can in the mess hall of the Necromancy Academy. We can come up with a better name for that later. Today is the first day when she will be taught how to raise an undead body, and she is so excited, but also incredibly nervous. Her friends, well, I'm not going to have her friends there. She, after finishing breakfast, she moves on to the let's see, where is this going to be taking place? Underground chambers. Underground chambers where her master will be waiting. And then, like I said, we're going to get rid of these. So Lyra's introduced to her mentor, Master Caleb. So instead of is introduced to, I'm just going to say meets her mentor, a wise and powerful necromancer who has trained some of the most skilled necromancers in Ithnos. Master Caleb, intrigued by Lyra's potential, let's say, already knowing that Lyra has great potential, decides to teach her the art of raising the undead. We already know she's doing this to jump straight into teaching her, straight into letting her raise an undead with his guidance. And we're gonna cut this out, cut that out. I'm just gonna cut these all out. But you get the idea of what I'm doing here, right? I take it and I then flesh it out and add my own sort of human spin on it to make sure that it's coherent, to make sure that it has enough detail. So the two go to the Academy's underground chamber. All right, I already put the underground chamber. So let's say to the underground. Well, we'll make this more specific. Reanimation chambers, where a recently deceased body is placed on a ritual table. Master Caleb instructs Lyra on how to properly prepare the body using special magical ointments and incantations that are essential to the reanimation process. This is a point where I might get more specific and say exactly which ointments and incantations, but based on time, I'm not going to do that right now. As Lyra carefully follows Master Caleb's instructions, she manages to raise an undead warrior from the body on the table. The undead warrior, who's later... Okay, so yes, this is good. So we should probably address what happens to Elric. He just leaves and screams and leaves the room, and nobody seems to have a problem with that. So we're just going to give an explanation of that. So Master Caleb, impressed by Lyra's first attempt, says that the warrior will soon be apprehended and they don't need to worry about him. Instead, he instructs her to raise another undead servant. The second undead servant awakens and in confusion and fear lunges at Lyra. As a self-defense mechanism, Lyra unknowingly activates her unique ability to perform soul mending, instantly calming the undead servant and preventing it from attacking her. That's good. Master Caleb is impressed and amazed by Lyra's natural talent for necromancy, as most apprentices struggle to create and control undead servants without the aid of her mentors. Now remember, this is something we added in the last step, which is why I go through every step before we flesh it out, so I can update and improve it. That way it means I have a little bit less to do in the next stage. So he encourages Lyra to explore her newfound abilities and promise to guide her through her journey as a necromancer in the realm of the Ithranos. With newfound confidence and determination, Lyra decides to hone her skills and learn more about her unique ability to perform soul mending. Alright, so sometimes ChatGPT will do this, where it just kind of goes, it gets to the end of your prompt and kind of continues it, but it never really does a good job. So, we're going to cut this off and just say this is the end of chapter 1. Okay? So now we have a pretty detailed description of chapter 1, right? So the next step, now you could flesh this out further. You could especially get more detail and all of that. But for now, we're just going to move right into the next step and actually start to create the scene. Okay? So in my experience, I don't really... I try to get it to be about 1,000 words at a time. So with this chapter, I'm guessing this chapter would be about 2,000 to 3,000 words. So we're only going to select a section of this. And I'm going to take it to about there, I think. And this is where, experience will help you. You'll have a better understanding of how much is going to make 1,000 words. This might not be enough. We can expand it later, but I'm just going to copy this, go back to ChatGPT. We're going to start a new chat because I have a very specific prompt for this next step. My prompt starts something like this. Write 1,000 words of a chapter using the following details. And then I have a big list of details that I put in here. I start with genre, epic fantasy. Yeah. Then I go tone. We'll say dark and dark and gloomy. That might not be a good tone. Let's see. Well, I'll just leave it like that for now, but that's something you want to keep in mind. Point of view is the next one. I usually, so that for this, we're going to go with, because I'm not really good at first person, we're just going to go with third person limited from Lyra's point of view. And then I add in the past tense. You could also have a separate field for tense. And then I add key characters. All right, and then this is where we put our characters. First we have Lyra. Now you can add a lot of detail about her here. Now I haven't gone into how you use ChatGPT for character development or world building or anything like that, but presumably when you're working in the summary phase, that's something you might want to flesh out a little bit more before you move on. I haven't done that because that's kind of a separate topic for another video, and I wanted to get to this last bit with haste. So I'm just going to make up a few things here. One thing I don't do, unless we're at the beginning of the story, which we are, is put her description, like her physical description. So I am going to put that here, but normally I would not do that unless I want her to be described in the scene, because ChatGPT will likely describe her in the scene if you put that description there. Rather, what I like to do is add a little bit of information about what she talks like. What's her dialogue like? Okay, so I'm just going to throw some stuff in here. I haven't really thought this through, and if we had more time, I would spend time trying to figure out her character a little bit better. But for now, I'm just going to say Lyra is a shy girl of about 16 years old with straight brown hair that hangs down to her waist. She is wearing a apprentice robe for the School of Necromancy that is dyed a bright red with black trimmings. And here's where I get into the part about the dialogue. She speaks her dialogue is often timid and unsure, but she is always inquisitive and eager to learn more. All right, that's good enough for now, I think. So the other person that we had was Master Calum, the other major character in this scene. And I don't put all the characters in the whole book in here. I just put the characters that are relevant to the scene. Calum is a master necromancer who teaches at the Necromancy Academy. I might be getting a little bit too stereotypical here, but he is a tall man with black hair that is pulled backward into a ponytail. I'll add long black hair pulled backward into a ponytail. He is wearing a black necromancer's coat that distinguishes him as a master necromancer. His dialogue is short and to the point, never outwardly showing emotion, and seeming from the outside to be a bit dry and reserved. All right, so that's good enough for now. Again, that's something we might figure out a little bit more if we were doing the full process of going through our outline and our pre-work there. But I'm just going to leave it at that. Next, I add summary. Now this is where we take what we've written down here, and actually, pardon me, that's actually the first little section here, and add that under summary. And then last but not least, I like to add something about conflict here, because every scene should have some source of conflict. The conflict comes from Lyra's nervousness to be reanimating a corpse for the first time. She doesn't feel like she's ready, even though she's the best in her class. And Master Calum is pushing her more than she is comfortable with. All right, I think that's pretty good. It's a nice long prompt. This is, again, why you want to be using the GPT-4 model instead of GPT 3.5. It's going to be doing a lot better with this. And sometimes the results can be rather different. So I'm really hopeful that this turns into something good. Let's go ahead and see. She sat alone in the dimly lit mess hall of the Necromancy Academy, her fingers fumbling over the piece of stale bread that lay before her. She could hardly stomach the meager meal, her excitement and anxiety gnawing at her insides like a pack of ravenous wolves. Today was the day she had been eagerly anticipating and dreading in equal measure, the day when she would be taught how to raise an undead body. That is a almost perfect opening paragraph. I would probably tweak the first sentence to make it hook a little bit more, but that is actually really good, and it immediately tells us what's going on. So she finished her breakfast, goes down the shadowy corridors. And here we get her red and black apprentice robes. That's based on the description I gave. Straight brown hair, so we're getting a description of her. That's appropriate here in this setting. Alright, so she comes to Master Calum, says, Master Calum, I am ready for my lesson. Yeah, so that's a little on the nose. And it's just like, oh, well, okay, let's have this lesson. So this is exactly the instance where I would maybe start writing my own dialogue. This gives us a really good place to start. Okay? But in order to make this an actually good book that I would be proud to sell on the Amazon store, it needs to be touched up. Now, one thing that I did not do very well, that I forgot to include in this prompt, is I will usually add something to the end of this that says, make sure to have plenty of realistic dialogue, make sure to show, not tell, and use deep point of view, that sort of thing. And I totally forgot to add that to the end of the prompt. So what I'm going to do is, actually, I'm going to go ahead and stop this generating. It's doing a great job, and I will probably go through here and do that again. I'm going to copy this prompt that I already did. I'm going to open a new chat, and we're going to try this again. And I'm going to add to the end of this, make sure to have plenty of realistic dialogue, and be sure to show, don't tell, and use deep point of view. That should hopefully make it a little bit better. Let's see. So it's kind of starting out in the same sort of vibe. She's finishing her last bite of breakfast. She's really nervous. Today was the day. She could hardly believe it. This is actually a good example of deep point of view, that it listened to me. And if it's not really able to do everything effectively that you put in the summary, you can ask it to do a little bit less of the summary, and what that usually does is it gives itself more time to flesh out that particular part of the story. And so you end up getting a little bit more description, a little bit more dialogue and whatnot. This is already looking a lot better so far. So sometimes if you don't get what you want in the first try, you can try it again with with some tweaks to your prompt. All right, this is pretty good. I'm going to stop this just because of time, but we're going to copy this into our document and put this here as step 6, actually developing your chapters. And we're going to quickly go through this, and I'll show you what kind of things I would do to this. So, Lyra Valtieri swallowed the last bite of her breakfast, her fork shaking in her hands as she forced down the tasteless gruel. That's not a bad opening sentence, because there's definitely conflict in there. So I'm going to leave it for now, but if there's anything I tweak more than anything else, it's the opening sentence. So I would probably come back to this, but for now it's okay. Today was the day. She could hardly believe it. Let's make that a comma because no one used semicolons in fiction. In just a few hours, she would be learning the dark art of raising the dead. Her stomach churned with a mixture of excitement and dread as she pushed away her empty plate, abandoning the bustling mess hall of the Necromancy Academy. So this is a little bit of telling, where she's quickly getting out of there. So this is an example where I would maybe dwell on this moment a little bit more. So let's go ahead and stop that. Have a period there. And then we can just add something to kind of draw out this moment a little more, because I think we need to stay here in this mess hall for a little bit longer. So we'll just add a friend. Said, I'm just going to make up a name, Marcos, as dropping down on the chair in front of her, opposite side of the table. Are you ready for today? I don't want to talk about it, said Lyra. She had probably eaten too much gruel. Already it was sinking in her stomach like a stone. Too fine, said Marcos. You're the best in the school! Exclamation point. Lyra couldn't take it anymore. She had to get out. Without another word to Marcos, she simply rose and left, ignoring his protests. So you see what I'm doing here is I'm taking the little bits of the scene that I think are maybe not fleshed out enough and expanding them a little bit on my own. And what I would do is I would take that same approach through this entire scene, but the AI has already gotten us maybe 50% of the way there and has done a really good job. And so hopefully this gives you a really good idea of the process of creating a full novel. It is not a one-hit wonder where you push a button and things magically appear for you, right? It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of figuring out, adjusting your prompt, and then adding your own human input after that, because the prompts can only get you so far. But what this is still, I think, a much more efficient way of creating a novel, especially if you already have an idea of where the story could go and you can create the outline yourself, or already have other elements that you would mix in. That can be a really, really effective way to get your first draft down on paper, and then you can mess it around with it and improve it as you see fit. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and let me know if you have any questions or maybe even suggestions on what you would do differently in the prompting, and I will see you next time.